She thought she was throwing a charity fundraiser. But what her husband announced that night nearly destroyed her life. And what I discovered later, it turned my marriage into a full-blown Netflix thriller. Owen and I had been married for 5 years. 5 years of what I thought was a decent marriage. Sure, we had the usual arguments about chores, money, and in-laws, but I always believed we had the kind of partnership that could survive the normal storms. But somewhere in that 5th year, the cracks started showing. And once they appeared, they spread like spider webs across glass. At first, it was little things. The late nights. The way he suddenly started guarding his phone, like it held state secrets. The mysterious work events that always ended with him stumbling home at 2 a.m. reeking of expensive perfume that definitely wasn't mine. But what cut deeper than the lies were the comments. One night, when I asked him why he was late again, he didn't just brush me off. He sneered. Maybe if you lost some weight, I wouldn't need to work so late. That sentence, it stayed lodged in my chest like glass. And it didn't stop there. He started humiliating me in front of others. Once, he shared a picture of me asleep, mouth wide open, hair a mess, in our friends' group chat. He captioned it, "Living with this every night." I remember my cheeks burning as I confronted him, but instead of apologizing, he laughed. Learn to take a joke, or people will think you're pathetic. I told myself it was just stress, that maybe I was being too sensitive. But then came the dinner party. I was telling a story about my niece, something lighthearted, when Owen cut in, patting my hand like I was a child. Don't mind her. She gets confused about basic facts. It's cute but embarrassing. The table chuckled. My smile froze. Inside, I was crumbling. Later that night, my best friend Brenda texted me under the table. "Are you okay?" Owen's being a complete ass. That's when I realized it wasn't just me noticing anymore. And yet, I stayed. Because every year, Owen and I hosted a massive charity fundraiser at our home. It wasn't his thing, it was mine. My passion project. I poured myself into organizing it, inviting dozens of people, coordinating with the children's hospital that had helped my niece. This year, I wanted it to be perfect. And for a while, it was. The night arrived. Guests flooded our home. Family, friends, co-workers, neighbors. The house sparkled with fairy lights, tables overflowing with catered food and wine. Music drifted through the rooms. Laughter filled the air. By the end of the night, we had raised almost $15,000 for the hospital. My heart swelled with pride. That's when Owen clinked his glass. "Everyone, may I have your attention?" The chatter died down. Guests turned toward him, smiling, expecting another generous donation or heartfelt thank you. My first thought? Maybe he'd secured a surprise pledge. Maybe he'd do something noble, something kind. Instead, he pulled out a small jewelry box and got down on one knee. The room gasped. I froze. My heart pounded in my ears. We were already married. What the hell was he doing? He opened the box to reveal a diamond eternity band. Then, with the smuggest smile, he announced, "After years of struggle, I'm thrilled to say my beautiful wife is pregnant." Pregnant. I wasn't pregnant. I wasn't even trying to get pregnant. The room erupted in cheers and tears. People hugged me, clapped Owen on the back. My mom sobbed with joy. His parents began tossing out baby names. My boss promised me extended maternity leave. I stood there, paralyzed, my stomach twisted with nausea. Owen slipped the ring onto my finger, hugged me tight, and whispered in my ear, "Just go with it." For the rest of the night, I lived a nightmare. People touched my stomach, gave me advice, asked about due dates. And Owen? He beamed. He played the role of proud father-to-be with sickening ease. I smiled through it. I had no choice. It was my event, my fundraiser, my night. But inside, I was dying. When the last guest left, I confronted him. He laughed. "Relax. It was cute. We'll just tell people you lost a baby later. Besides, you should be grateful for the ring." I didn't sleep that night. And at 3 a.m., his phone buzzed. He was passed out drunk. So I looked. A message lit up the screen. Did she buy it? Is it done? From someone named Steve W. My hands shook as I scrolled through their messages. But Steve wasn't Steve. Steve was Tracy, his girlfriend, of 18 months, and she was pregnant. They thought I'd play along. They thought I'd stay quiet, but I was already planning my revenge. I sat there in the dark, the glow of Owen's phone burning my retinas as I scrolled through his filth. Tracy wasn't just some fling. She wasn't a random one-night stand. She was a full-blown relationship. Hundreds of texts, photos of them together, smiling like a happy couple, screenshots of my personal calendar, plans, meetings, trips, so Owen could schedule their dates behind my back. Pictures of me, sent to her for ridicule. Look at her. Can you believe she still thinks I love her? He'd written under a candid shot of me cooking in the kitchen. Every word, every image, chipped away at me. And then the final blow. Photos of Tracy in my clothes, in my bathroom, on my bed, a positive pregnancy test on the counter. She was pregnant with his child, and I was just the cover story. I clutched the phone, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. But instead of waking Owen up and screaming, instead of throwing the phone in his face, I did something worse. I stayed quiet, because silence was my weapon now. The next morning, I went through the motions, made coffee, asked about his hangover, pretended nothing was wrong. And over the next week, I laid my trap. I reached out to Tracy. At first, I expected venom, accusations, rage. But when we met in secret at a quiet cafe on the edge of town, I realized the truth. She had no idea. Owen had told her I was his unstable sister, that I lived with him because I couldn't function alone, that the pictures of us were just to keep up appearances for family. Her eyes filled with tears as I laid out the truth. Our marriage license, our photos, bank records. Her hands shook as she pushed a stack of envelopes across the table. Letters, receipts, notes he'd given her. He'd promised her a life. He'd promised her Paris. He was stealing from our savings, over $10,000 gone, to fund their baby Moon. The rage inside me crystallized into something sharper than anger. It was strategy. For the next 3 weeks, I played the part of the doting wife. I laughed at Owen's jokes. I let him kiss my cheek. I nodded when he talked about baby names in front of others. But beneath that calm surface, I was building something devastating. Brenda, my best friend, was the only one who knew. I pulled her aside one night, my voice low, my hands trembling. "I'm going to end him," I said. Her eyes widened. Like metaphorically, right? I smirked. "Don't worry. I'll make sure it's public." The opportunity came in the form of a dinner. I pitched it as a pregnancy celebration. After all, wasn't everyone so thrilled about the big announcement? The same people who cried and hugged me at the fundraiser would be back. Family, friends, neighbors, co-workers. Owen looked nervous at first, but when I smiled sweetly and said, "Wouldn't it be fun to celebrate together?" he agreed, because he was arrogant enough to believe I'd forgiven him. The night of the dinner, our house was glowing again. Plates of catered Italian food covered the tables. Wine flowed. My mom was beaming. My boss brought baby name books. Owen's dad promised to build us a crib. And Owen? He sat with his arm around me, squeezing my shoulder like he owned me, like he was proud. I wanted to rip his hand off, but I smiled, because tonight was the night. I stood, tapped my glass. The chatter died. "Thank you all for being here." I began, my voice calm. "You've all been so supportive during this special time. It means the world to me and Owen." Owen grinned. He thought this was his moment. "I told you I'd have a little presentation about our journey to parenthood." I continued. "So, let's walk down memory lane together." I connected my laptop to the TV. The slideshow began. At first, it was innocent. Our wedding, vacations, couple selfies. The crowd laughed and cooed. Owen squeezed my hand, smug. Then I clicked the next slide. A screenshot, a text message. From Tracy. "Did she buy it? Is it done?" The room went silent. Owen's smile faltered. I clicked again. A photo of Tracy in our bathroom. Positive pregnancy test in hand. My shampoo bottles, my robe hanging behind her. Gasps echoed through the room. My cousin whispered, "Oh my God!" I clicked again. Bank transfers. Our joint account funding Paris tickets. Jewelry receipts. Flowers. Gifts. I clicked again. Screenshots of Owen mocking me. Sharing my photos with Tracy. Calling me the crazy sister. Murmurs filled the room. Owen's face drained of color. He tried to stand. I raised my hand. "Sit down." My voice shook, but the room obeyed. Slide after slide revealed his lies, his betrayal, his theft, until finally the WhatsApp message appeared. Owen bragging to Tracy about how easy it was to convince the crazy sister to host a fundraiser, how he'd used the fake pregnancy as cover. The silence was suffocating, and then I closed the laptop. "So, Owen," I said, turning to him, "do you want to tell everyone the truth, or should I keep going?" The room exploded. Gasps, shouts. My mom stood, tears streaming down her face. She ripped the ring off my finger and threw it at him. It bounced into his plate of pasta. My dad shoved him when he tried to grab me. My uncle stepped between us. And then the front door opened. Tracy walked in, pregnant, visibly, her mom beside her. She looked Owen dead in the eye. "You told me she was your sister." The room erupted into chaos. His parents screamed. My mom sobbed. My best friend covered her mouth. And Owen? He ran, tried to bolt. But my neighbor, 5'2", retired volleyball coach, built like a wall, stood in front of the door. "You're not going anywhere until you explain yourself." That was the night everything burned. But what came after? That was even worse. I thought the slideshow would be the end of it. But that night, that was just the opening act. When Owen bolted from the dinner, slamming into the porch, railing like a fool before sprinting off into the night, I thought I'd finally be free. I thought exposing him in front of everyone would be the clean break, the final nail in the coffin. But I should have known better. Men like Owen don't slink away into shame. They plot, they twist, they spin, and the fallout, it came faster than I could have imagined. The next morning, my phone nearly vibrated itself off the nightstand. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. At first, they were supportive. "Are you okay? I can't believe he did that. We're here for you." But then the other messages trickled in. Owen had started spinning his own story. According to him, I was unstable, obsessed, controlling. I'd hacked his phone and fabricated the messages. I'd photoshopped the pregnancy photos. He told people I couldn't handle him leaving. So I staged a public humiliation, the sheer audacity. And the worst part? Some people bought it. Brenda was the first to show me the proof. She texted me a screenshot from my cousin Savannah. Owen had sent her a long message claiming I'd snapped under pressure, that I was unwell and needed help, that he hoped the family wouldn't cut him off while I spiraled. Savannah had replied with polite, "Thanks for sharing, but I'm not buying it." But not everyone was as strong. I heard whispers from mutual friends, neighbors, even co-workers. Some didn't want to get involved. Some said it wasn't black and white. One co-worker DM'd me, "Relationships are complicated. Maybe don't air dirty laundry publicly." As if he hadn't detonated the bomb first. Meanwhile, Owen's parents didn't call me. Not once. Instead, his mom texted my mom. It's unfortunate how this was handled. Maybe it would be best if Owen could collect his belongings quietly, without further escalation. My mom, sweet, cardigan-wearing, tea-brewing mom, called me right after. Her voice shook with anger. "If anyone escalated, it was your husband." My mom had never spoken about anyone with that much venom, not even the neighbor who let her dog pee on our roses. But Owen wasn't done. When I ignored his texts, they turned nastier. At first, "We can fix this if you just apologize for embarrassing me." Apologize? For exposing his double life? When I didn't respond, his tone shifted. "You'll regret this. People are talking. You've ruined your own reputation. If you don't cooperate, I'll make sure you lose everything." I blocked him. He switched numbers. I blocked those. He emailed. I blocked those too. Finally, He tried calling my dad. Dad, who never liked Owen, not even at the wedding, answered once. When Owen started his rant, Dad cut him off. Lose my number. Click. It was the most satisfying thing I'd heard all week. But the chaos didn't stop with Owen. Family dinners turned into war zones. My mom wanted to host a healing dinner with Owen's parents. She pictured roast chicken, polite conversation, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to smooth things over for the sake of civility. My dad wanted to file a police report. Not sure he understood what counted as fraud, but his determination was admirable. Meanwhile, my brother Hank, he created a group chat titled, Owen is dead to us. And every time Owen left, Hank re-added him, just to watch him rage quit over and over. Petty? Absolutely. But sometimes petty is healing. The wildest twist? Tracy. I thought she'd vanish, disappear into the shadows with her baby bump and broken heart. But instead, she called me. Her voice trembled. I don't know who to talk to. My mom wants to move us out of state. Owen keeps showing up at my work. I don't know what to do. I hesitated. I wasn't her therapist. I wasn't her friend. But I wasn't heartless either. We met at a coffee shop. Her mom sat outside in the car, glaring at me through the window like I might bite. Tracy slid a stack of envelopes across the table. Cards, receipts, promises Owen had made her. He's still sending me these, she whispered. He says he'll fix everything. He says I ruined his marriage. Her hands shook. Mine clenched into fists. We sat there, two women bound by one man's lies, sipping lukewarm lattes while our lives burned. For a fleeting moment, it almost felt normal, like maybe neither of us were crazy, just victims of the same storm. Back home, reality crashed back in. Locks had to be changed, utilities untangled, bank accounts frozen. Everywhere I turned, Owen had left his fingerprints, bills in his name, accounts only he could access. My mom came by with 3 empty suitcases and a box of lemon bars, determined to help me pack up his things. Instead, she reorganized my pantry and folded my laundry while lecturing me on boundaries. Dad hovered on the porch, glaring at the street like Owen might materialize at any moment. And Hank? He spent 3 hours creating memes of Owen photoshopped into trash cans. I saved every single one. But Owen wasn't done playing dirty. He emailed our landlord, trying to get me removed from the lease. Claimed I wasn't a resident. Said I was harassing him and his pregnant partner. I only found out when the landlord emailed me for clarification. I had to send copies of my ID, utility bills, and marriage certificate just to prove I lived there. The landlord sighed, muttered something about not wanting to get involved, and hinted that maybe one of us should move out for peace of mind. It was always about keeping things peaceful, even if it meant ignoring the war he started. But the worst blow came in a cheap white envelope shoved under my door. Owen's lawyer. A letter threatening to sue me for defamation, emotional distress, and equitable division of assets. He wanted the car, half the savings. And this one made me laugh out loud. Compensation for lost business opportunities because I slandered him publicly. I stood in my kitchen, letter in hand, and laughed until I cried. Because if he thought he could bury me in paperwork, he hadn't seen anything yet. And that was only the beginning of round 2. I thought the slideshow was an explosion, but the real war, that started with a cheap lawyer letter shoved under my door. The letter was laughable. Bad formatting. My name spelled wrong. Vague accusations written like someone had cut and pasted from a Google template. But it still rattled me. Because if Owen was petty enough to humiliate me at my own fundraiser, cruel enough to invent a fake pregnancy, and bold enough to juggle 2 households, then he was reckless enough to drag me through court just to make me bleed money and time. I sat at my kitchen table with the letter spread out, Brenda across from me, her face pale with fury. "This looks fake," she said, flipping through the pages. "Honestly, I've seen Etsy sellers with better formatting. But he's trying to scare you." I rubbed my temples. And it's working. She slammed her hand on the table. "Then let's get scarier." That night, I made a decision. I was done reacting. I needed an attorney of my own. The next morning, I started calling. I found a family law firm downtown with good reviews. The woman who picked up, let's call her Greta, had the kind of voice that cut through panic. Calm, direct, no nonsense. I spilled everything. The fake pregnancy, the fundraiser stunt, the slideshow, Tracy, the money. She paused and asked, "Wait, he announced your pregnancy at a charity fundraiser?" I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. There was a long silence. Then, "That's a new one. Keep everything. Every text, every screenshot. And don't, under any circumstances, let him back in the house. We'll handle the rest." For the first time in weeks, I exhaled. But Owen wasn't giving me a moment of peace. The following Friday, just as I was folding laundry, there was a pounding on the door. Not knocking, pounding. I froze. Through the peephole, I saw Owen, his fist slammed against the door. His voice carried through the walls. "Open up. You can't keep my stuff. I know my rights." I clutched my phone, ready to dial. Then I noticed he wasn't alone. Behind him stood his dad, arms folded, expression hard. They looked like they were staging some kind of showdown. I texted my own dad, "Come, now." 10 minutes later, my dad pulled into driveway. He didn't say a word, just stood there in his old hoodie and slippers, arms crossed, glaring across the lawn. It was surreal. Two fathers on opposite sides, silent, the tension thick enough to choke on. Finally, Owen muttered something and left, dragging his dad with him. I locked the door twice, my hands trembling. The war had reached my doorstep. Meanwhile, the social fallout spread like wildfire. Some people unfollowed me on Instagram. Others slid into my DMs asking for the real story. Brenda went nuclear, posting a scathing rant about Owen's narcissist energy, tagging him by name. A comment war broke out that lasted 2 days. I muted everything. I didn't have the energy to explain myself to strangers. But the strangest moments weren't online. They were in public. At Target, I ran into Savannah from Owen's side of the family. She gave me a tight smile and asked, "So, how's everything?" Like she was asking about the weather. I stared at her, deadpan. "You know." She nodded, awkward, then scurried away. Everyone wanted just enough gossip to feel informed. Nobody wanted the mess. And then came Owen's mother. One Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find her standing there, clutching a box of Owen's childhood mementos and a folder of papers. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me like she owned the place. I blocked her. "No, we don't." Her face twisted. "You've made this harder than it needs to be. Boys will be boys. Mistakes happen. But you don't destroy a marriage over them." I almost laughed. He faked a pregnancy, stole my savings, and cheated for 18 months. That's not a mistake. That's a second life. She tried guilt, pleading, lecturing me on forgiveness. I didn't budge. Finally, she shoved the folder into my hands and left the box on the porch. I didn't even open it, straight into the garage. Meanwhile, Tracy's life was spiraling. She texted me late at night. He won't stop calling. Sometimes blocked numbers, sometimes emails. He said if I don't help him, he'll take the baby. My stomach turned. I told her to document everything. Save the voicemails. Screenshot the threats. Talk to her mom, maybe even the police. She replied, "My mom thinks filing a restraining order will make him angrier. What if it puts me in danger?" I didn't have answers. I could barely hold my own life together. But as much as I wanted to cut her off, I couldn't, because Owen had tied our lives together in the worst possible way. The standoff escalated again when Owen came for his tools. He texted me first. "I'll come at noon." I replied, "I'll leave them on the porch." At noon, he showed up banging on the door so hard the neighbor's dog started barking. I cracked the window. "Your stuff's outside. Take it and leave." He started recording me on his phone. "Everyone see this? She's refusing lawful entry into my home. She's stealing my property. This is harassment." I rolled my eyes. "Take your junk and go." He grabbed the tools, but not before kicking over my flower pot and storming off. Real mature. And then, as if life wasn't already a circus, I got another letter from his lawyer. This one demanded immediate mediation. Greta, my attorney, chuckled when I showed her. This is just more posturing. He's hoping to scare you into agreeing. But don't panic, we'll handle it. Still, the constant paperwork, the letters, the threats, it was like being stalked by envelopes. Every day brought a new demand, a new threat, a new way for Owen to say, I'm not done with you. But the worst moment? The driveway. I came home from the store, arms full of groceries. When I saw his car parked there, Owen, sitting on the hood, scrolling his phone like he was waiting for me. I froze. Leave, I said, voice sharp. He smirked. We need to talk. There's nothing left to say. He hopped down, stepping close enough that I smelled his cologne. His voice dropped to a growl. You ruined my life. I could have had it all if you just played along. But you'll regret this. I gripped my keys like a weapon. Get out of my driveway. He leaned closer, eyes wild. This isn't over. Then he finally slid back into his car and peeled away, tires screeching. I stood there, groceries digging into my arms, heart pounding so hard I thought I might faint. That was the moment I realized he wasn't going to stop, not until he destroyed me. I thought exposing him would end the nightmare, but Owen wasn't done. Not with me, not with Tracy, not with anyone. The text from Tracy came at 3:17 a.m. I was half asleep, phone buzzing on my nightstand. He's threatening to take the baby. Says I ruined his life. Says he'll tell the court I'm unstable. I'm so scared. I sat up, staring at the glow of the screen in the dark. I wanted to throw the phone across the room, to scream, to tell her I couldn't be her lifeline when I was drowning myself. But I typed back anyway. Document everything. Every text. Every call. Get a binder if you have to. And don't see him alone. She replied with a single word. Okay. But I could feel her fear bleeding through the screen. Days later, it happened. Another text. This time from Tracy's mom. We're at the hospital. Early labor. Please don't tell him. I stare at the message, my chest tightening. I wasn't family. I wasn't supposed to be looped into this moment. But somehow, Owen's lies had twisted our lives into one grotesque knot. Hours later, another buzz. A photo. A baby girl, red-faced and swaddled. Healthy. Breathing. Alive. Tracy's caption. She's here. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. My mom cried when I showed her. My dad muttered something about, at least some good came out of this mess. But the peace lasted all of 12 hours, because Owen found out. He wasn't at the hospital, thank God, but he started calling, first Tracy, then her mom, then somehow me. The voicemails poured in. That's my baby. You can't keep her from me. If you think you can raise her without me, you're insane. You'll regret trying to shut me out. I'll take custody. Watch me. His voice grew sharper with every message. The threats weren't empty. I could hear the intent behind them. Owen wanted ownership of Tracy, of me, of the baby. It wasn't about love. It was about control. Tracy's mom called me again. Her voice was raw. Do you think he'll really try to take her? Do you think he'll go to court? I hesitated, because the truth was ugly. Yes, I whispered. I think he's exactly the kind of man who would. She started to cry, and all I could do was sit there, staring at the baby photo on my phone, knowing Owen would try to turn her into his next weapon. Meanwhile, my own home had become a battlefield. Everywhere I looked, there were reminders of him. The crooked lamp he swore was retro. The rug he dragged in from a yard sale. Even the faint dent in the hallway from where he once kicked the wall during an argument. The house didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like his ghost was still inside, and the landlord wasn't helping. He called again, voice cautious. This situation, it's getting messy. Maybe it'd be best if one of you considered moving out. Translation: you should leave so I don't have to deal with the drama. I bit my tongue, but inside I was screaming. Why should I be the one to leave? I wasn't a liar. I wasn't a thief. I wasn't the one who set fire to my own marriage. But the pressure was building. My parents tried to help, in their own clumsy ways. Mom baked muffins like they were antidotes to betrayal. She sat across from me, hands wrapped around her teacup, whispering, "Maybe you should just move back in with us, just for a while." I shook my head. "I can't. That house, it's mine. I built that fundraiser there. I hosted our friends there. I made it a home." Dad, on the other hand, was pure fire. He shoved divorce printouts into my hands. He paced the kitchen, muttering about restraining orders. He even said, half serious, "If he steps foot here again, I'll handle myself." And for once, I almost wanted him to. But the cracks in me were showing. One night, I broke down. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the ring Owen had slipped onto my finger during his fake announcement. I should have thrown it away weeks ago. But instead, I clutched it, whispering, "Why wasn't I enough?" Brenda found me like that when she stopped by unannounced. She sat next to me, silent for a long time. Then she said, "You were more than enough. That's why he needed to tear you down. Don't confuse his sickness for your worth." I started sobbing, and she just held me, steady, unflinching, like an anchor in the middle of a storm. But Owen wasn't done pushing. One evening, I came home to find a hand-delivered envelope on my porch. Inside, another letter from his lawyer. This time, it wasn't about defamation. It was about property. Owen wanted half of everything. The car, the savings, even my grandmother's antique dresser, which had been in my family for generations. I laughed, bitter and sharp. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to bleed me dry, to punish me for leaving. The next day, I sat in Greta's office, the folder of letters spread out between us. She tapped her pen against the desk. "This isn't about assets. This is about control. He doesn't want the car. He doesn't want the dresser. He wants you exhausted." I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. "So what do I do?" She leaned forward. "You fight, and you let me handle the rest." For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to relief. Because maybe, just maybe, I wasn't fighting this alone anymore. But even with Greta in my corner, I couldn't shake the paranoia. Every time I heard a car slow down outside, I wondered if it was him. Every time the phone buzzed, I braced for another threat. Even in my sleep, I dreamed of Owen standing in the doorway, whispering, "You will regret this." It was like he had found a way to haunt me while still alive. If you think a man like Owen disappears quietly, you don't know men like Owen. When one door slams in their face, they find another to kick down. The first time I saw Owen's custody paranoia in action, it wasn't through a lawyer or a court. It was on Facebook. A post appeared on his timeline, public for everyone to see. A grainy selfie of him holding a baby blanket, looking solemn. The caption, "Fighting for my child." Some people don't want a father to be in his baby's life, but I won't give up. Hashtag father's rights, hashtag parental alienation. My jaw dropped. The baby wasn't even mine, but he was already painting himself as the victim, a martyr for fatherhood. And people who didn't know the truth, were eating it up. Comments like, "Stay strong, bro," and "Moms always try to push dads out. Fight for your rights," flooded in. It made me sick. I slammed the laptop shut, but the damage was done. Tracy called me the next day, her voice ragged. He posted about the baby. Without my permission. He's trying to make it look like you're the one keeping him away. Her voice broke. "I can't breathe. I feel like he's everywhere." I didn't know what to say, because she wasn't wrong. He was everywhere. The paranoia didn't stay online. One afternoon, I pulled into my driveway and saw him across the street, leaning against his car. He didn't approach, didn't shout, just watched, like a shadow. I hurried inside, heart hammering, and peeked through the blinds. He stayed for 20 minutes, then drove off. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house made me jolt awake, convinced he was outside. My dad tried to reassure me. "He's just trying to scare you. That's all this is." Empty threats. But I could see the tension in his jaw, the way his hands curled into fists. My mom, on the other hand, was unraveling. She started calling me twice a day, sometimes 3. Her voice trembled every time. Have you heard from him? Did he show up? Do you need me to come stay the night? Her worry wrapped around me like a second skin. But instead of comfort, it felt suffocating, because even my safe places were cracking under the pressure. Then came the courthouse stunt. I was at work when my phone buzzed with a text from Brenda. WTF is this? Attached is a photo. Owen, standing on the courthouse steps, holding a manila folder in one hand and a sign in the other. The sign read, "Fighting for my family. Pray for us." He'd staged a whole performance, and someone had snapped a picture. By the end of the day, it was circulating through our community's Facebook groups. I wanted to scream. He wasn't just tormenting me privately anymore. He was turning my pain into theater. That night, my family imploded. We were all crammed around my parents' dinner table. Me, Mom, Dad, my brother Hank, and Brenda, when the arguments began. Mom wanted to invite Owen's parents over to talk it out. Dad slammed his fist on the table. Over my dead body. Mom snapped back. You think threats will fix this? We need a resolution, not more conflict. Hank rolled his eyes, muttering. Resolution? The guy faked a pregnancy announcement at a cancer fundraiser. What's there to resolve? The shouting spiraled, voices overlapping, forks clattering, until finally, I slammed my hands on the table. Stop. I'm the one living in this mess, and none of you are helping. You're just making it worse. The room fell silent. Mom's eyes brimmed with tears. Dad's jaw clenched. For the first time, I saw it clearly. This wasn't just destroying me. It was ripping through everyone I loved. The next week, Owen escalated again. He started leaving things on my porch. First, a box of his old clothes. Then, a stack of framed photos of us from vacations. Our smiles now looking like props in a cruel joke. Finally, a single envelope. Inside, a handwritten note. We could have had it all. You chose war. Don't forget, I always finish what I start. My hands shook as I read it, because it wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. Meanwhile, Tracy was unraveling in her own way. She texted late at night. I can't stop thinking he's going to take her. Every knock on the door, every car that slows down, I panic. Her exhaustion seeped through the screen. She even admitted she considered leaving town altogether. Maybe if I move states, he can't touch us, she wrote. But Owen had already anticipated that. He'd filed a petition for visitation, even though the baby was barely weeks old. When she told me, my chest felt like it caved in. He doesn't care about her, I whispered. He just cares about winning. Tracy started crying on the phone. I know, but what if the court believes him? What if they give him access? He's dangerous. He's... She broke down completely, and all I could do was listen, because I didn't have answers. Not for her, not even for myself. Everywhere I turned, Owen's shadow stretched longer. He was in my driveway, on my porch, at the courthouse, in Tracy's nightmares, in my family's arguments. He was everywhere, and I started to wonder, would he ever stop? Or was this just the beginning of a war that would swallow us all whole? When you live with a liar long enough, you start to feel like the world bends around their story. But sometimes, their lies collapse under their own weight. The landlord finally called it. I was sitting on the couch, laptop open with divorce paperwork, when the phone rang. His voice was tight, like he'd been rehearsing. Look, I don't want to be in the middle of this, but the complaints, the police showing up, the neighbors talking, it's too much. When your lease is up, I can't renew it. I'm sorry. My stomach dropped. It didn't matter that Owen caused the chaos. It didn't matter that I was the one holding things together. In the landlord's eyes, I was guilty by association. I hung up, staring at the walls around me. The house I had built a life in. The house where I had raised thousands for sick children, where I had laughed with friends, cried with family, celebrated birthdays, hosted Christmas dinners. Now it wasn't a home, it was a casualty. And I realized staying here wasn't strength anymore. It was surrender. Meanwhile, Tracy was unraveling faster. The custody petition had broken something in her. She called me at 11 p.m., her voice shaking. I can't do this. He's going to take her. I feel like I'm waiting for him to show up and rip her out of my arms. I tried to reassure her. The courts don't just hand babies to unstable men. You have evidence. You have me. You're not alone. But she whispered back, "You don't know him like I do. He'll charm them. He'll twist it. He'll win." Her words echoed the same fear that had been gnawing at me for months. Because deep down, I knew she was right about one thing. Owen's real power wasn't in fists or threats. It was in the way he bent reality around him, like gravity. But then, finally, the cracks began to show. And this time, they weren't mine. They were his. It started small. One of Owen's Facebook posts backfired. He uploaded a dramatic video, pacing in his living room, ranting about being silenced and the mother of his child trying to keep him away. His words were slick, smooth, but he slipped. In the middle of the rant, he mentioned me, called me the crazy sister again. Except this time, people noticed the math didn't add up. Comments rolled in. Wait, wasn't he married? Didn't his wife expose him at a fundraiser? Sister? That doesn't make sense. Within hours, the video was flooded with laughing emojis and clown memes. Someone even stitched it into a TikTok parody, dubbing circus music over his rant. It went semi-viral in our town. For the first time in months, Owen wasn't a martyr. He was a joke. The humiliation made him spiral. He showed up at my house again, pounding on the door, screaming that I had turned everyone against him. I didn't open. Instead, I pulled out my phone and started recording from the window. His face contorted with rage when he saw me. "You think this is funny? You're ruining me. You'll regret this." I didn't answer, just held the phone steady. When he realized I wasn't engaging, he kicked the porch railing and stormed off. Minutes later, I uploaded the clip to a private group chat with friends and family. The reaction was immediate. Everyone saw him for what he was, unhinged. And that was when I felt it. For the first time since this nightmare began, power shifted. But power shifts don't bring peace. They bring retaliation. A week later, a letter arrived. This one wasn't from his lawyer. It was handwritten. Short, sharp. "If you don't stop, I'll drag you down with me. I'll make sure you have nothing." My blood ran cold. Because it wasn't just a threat. It was desperation. And desperate men are dangerous. My parents rallied again. Dad installed cameras all around my house, muttering about evidence and catching him red-handed. Mom insisted I spend a few nights at their place. She cooked elaborate meals, as if pot roast could shield me from threats. Hank, in his usual chaotic way, printed Owen's clown memes and taped them to the fridge. I laughed so hard I cried, because sometimes laughter is all you have left. Then one night, it all came crashing to a head. I was lying in bed when my phone buzzed. A text from Tracy. "He's outside, at my mom's. He won't leave." My heart seized. I called her immediately. She was whispering, panicked. "He's pounding on the door, yelling that the baby is his." My mom's on the phone with the police. In the background, I heard it. Owen's voice, raw and ugly. "That's my daughter. You can't keep her from me. Open this door or I'll break it down." I gripped the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Minutes later, she whispered, "They're here. They're taking him away." Then the line went dead. I lay there in the dark, phone still in my hand, shaking from head to toe. For months, I had dreamed of this moment. Someone else finally seen what I saw, the mask ripped away. But instead of relief, I felt hollow, because the war wasn't over. It had only shifted to a new battlefield. They say courtrooms are where truth is decided. But when you're fighting someone like Owen, truth isn't enough. You need proof. You need fire. And most of all, you need to outlast him. The night Owen was dragged from Tracy's porch, I thought maybe, just maybe, the universe had finally caught up with him. But like a cockroach in a burning building, He refused to die. 2 weeks later, I got another letter. This one was official. Court-stamped. A hearing date. Owen was suing for equitable division of assets and demanding joint custody of Tracy's newborn. Yes, you heard that right. Joint custody of a child that wasn't even mine. Tracy called me hysterical. He's going to drag me into court. He says he has rights. He says he'll prove I'm unfit. Her words cracked, each one heavier than the last. I sat there, the paper trembling in my hand, realizing the monster wasn't done with either of us. Not even close. Court day came faster than I expected. The courthouse smelled of old wood and dust, the kind of place where lives are quietly dismantled in beige-colored rooms. I sat in the gallery, heart racing, while Tracy sat at the petitioner's table with her lawyer. And then he walked in. Owen, smug, polished, wearing a navy suit like he was auditioning for a role as devoted father. He glanced around the courtroom until his eyes landed on me, and then he smiled. It wasn't a smile. It was a warning. The hearing was chaos. Owen's lawyer painted him as a victim, a loving father, a devoted husband who had been slandered by a bitter ex and manipulated by a deceitful woman. He called me unstable. He called Tracy paranoid. He said the fundraiser incident had been a misunderstanding. He even tried to argue that the Paris trip was a work-related expense. I wanted to stand up and scream, but Greta squeezed my arm. Not yet. Then Tracy's lawyer rose, and she was ruthless. She laid out everything. The texts, the photos, the bank transfers, the video of him screaming on my porch, the police report from Tracy's house. Every lie, every mask, torn away. Owen's face tightened with each exhibit. By the time the video of him pounding on Tracy's door played, red face and spitting threats, his mask had cracked completely. He tried to object. He tried to shout over the recording, but the judge silenced him with a single gavel strike. When it was over, the ruling was swift. Tracy retained full custody. Owen was granted supervised visitation, barely. As for me, the judge dismissed his asset claims, citing his bad faith conduct. I walked out of that courthouse shaking, adrenaline roaring in my ears, not because I'd won, but because, for the first time, I felt like he'd lost. But losing didn't humble Owen. It broke him. In the weeks that followed, his life unraveled. His parents distanced themselves, embarrassed by his courtroom outburst. His job? Gone. Word had spread. Clients didn't want to be associated with a man publicly exposed as a fraud. His friends? Half vanished. The other half mocked him behind his back. And his social media, once full of smug posts and martyrdom? Silent. It was like watching a fire burn itself out. Nothing left but smoke. One evening, I got a text from Tracy. A photo of her baby, bundled in a tiny hat her aunt had knitted. The caption, "We're okay. She's okay." For the first time in months, I smiled without forcing it, because despite the wreckage Owen left behind, life was still pushing forward. New, fragile, but real. And me? I packed my things. When the lease ended, I didn't fight to stay. That house was poisoned, every corner stained with memories of betrayal. Instead, I moved into a small apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, just mine. The first night, I sat on the floor surrounded by boxes, eating takeout lo mein with Brenda. She raised her soda can in a toast, to fresh starts, and to never letting a man fake a pregnancy announcement again. I laughed so hard I choked on noodles, and it felt good. Sometimes, closure doesn't come with fireworks. It comes quietly, in a courthouse ruling, in a baby's first breath, in a new apartment filled with nothing but peace, and in the knowledge that the person who tried to destroy you only destroyed himself. What would you do in this situation? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more dramatic Reddit stories on Reddit Tea. Thanks for watching, and we'll spill more tea in the next story.